and welcome back to Anchor. This video is going to be focusing on the NDIS fraud by Patrick's siblings of his entire NDIS payment totaling over $450,000 over 2 years.
I don't know.
And it all went to fund a bar. Okay. Now, I think over to you, Mum.
For the NDIS?
Yes, because Mum's going to talk at the beginning of the NDIS because I wasn't actually around at the time, was I? So I only found out much later on the person that discovered the fraud. So we're going to hand you over to Mum, make sure we get all the information correct.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to apply for the NDIS because I don't like Patrick to be on government sort of databases and whatnot.
It's never safe.
No, it's a bit dangerous. But anyway, getting a grant of $1,125 a month from the council to help pay for my son Dominic. The council people came up, two of them, and they said, look, we're cancelling that, you have to apply for NDIS. Okay, so I ignored that. I thought we can wear it, it doesn't matter, it's a minimal grant. And then my husband rang me and said, the NDIS is in our area now, you have to apply for it. And I said, oh, do I have to? But then I thought, well, NDIS is not means tested, but if you have compensation, which is perfectly fair, you shouldn't be double paid virtually.
Yeah, there's some horrible instances where people have been receiving NDIS while they're waiting for their court case for like traffic accidents.
And they have to pay it back.
And then they have to pay everything back.
Yes. But in our case, Patrick's money has been gone since 2014. That's not my opinion, that's the opinion of...
that is the opinion of one of the top economists in Australia.
Yes. Okay, so I think, well, I'll ring Urella and see if I can qualify for it. So I rang Urella, they didn't know. They said they'd find out and rang me back, said no, you can't get it. Okay, so I'm going to make my husband happy and apply for it because it'll be rejected. And I put everything in the form about the compensation payment and all the rest of it. But unfortunately, the Supreme Court also agreed that the funds were exhausted. And so because they're exhausted, now we're getting the payment. I was hoping to get the $1,125. You could have knocked me over with a feather when I opened the letter that said that Patrick had been granted $130,000 for the first bit. Okay, there was a woman who'd been contacting me about it. She said that she's the only person who can get you an NDIS payment.
She would have been a support coordinator, I presume.
Oh, I don't know where she was from. She said her father was involved in the management of it in the Northern Territory and she had special access to give anybody NDIS.
Yet another level of corruption.
So, just after I got this letter, I get a phone call from her. And she said, she wants to come round and speak to me. I said, oh, okay, but I'm not going to talk about it in front of Patrick. So we went down to the lobby of the apartments and sat on a couch and she's telling me that no one can get NDIS without going through her and we need to...
The many hundreds of thousands of NDIS clients.
Yeah.
Phone must be ringing off tap.
Yeah, so I let her give me the whole spiel and then I said, well, I'm sorry, but I've already got it, so, we might be needing your assistance. So she shuffled off. What I would have done if I hadn't got the letter that day, got it the next day, I would have thought she was a miracle worker.
Yes.
Yeah, but I really didn't expect to get so much money. What am I going to do with so much money? So we rang one of the local providers in our area. And she came round and told us that it's only to pay for care. And apparently this brilliant idea is the government's little plan that now Dominic and I can go to work because two able-bodied people are not needed to look after Patrick because now we can afford care. $130,000 will not pay for 24-hour nursing care. So presumably when we come home from work, we stay up all night and look after Patrick.
$275,000 would though, which is what it went up to.
Yes. So that's not much good to us. So we asked her, well, and the equipment is really expensive. That's what I was hoping that, when there was so much money.
Nappies.
Yeah, all the stuff. Like I just paid 20-something thousand to have a roof hoist installed.
Maintenance of the beds.
Yeah, because Dominic was getting a bit unreliable and he was going to LA, so I would be there by myself. But I didn't intend to be there by myself once once he'd gone, I was going to start hiring people to come and help me, particularly at night. After when we got the payment, I was worried that we'd lose it if we didn't use it. So I asked him, could we have somebody a couple of nights a week? I can stay awake a fair while.
Oh, she's quite impressive with
Yes,
that one.
when my husband was dying.
Well trained.
I pretty much did 5-10 minute cat naps,
Yeah.
because he had to have morphine injections every hour, and he didn't sleep, and you needed to watch him because he was very unsteady on his feet, and he had a bad habit of starting home renovations or whatnot.
Right before a flight or right before death?
Right, well, before a flight, but now before death.
Well, you always want to be late for death, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, so what will I do? When this woman came out and told us all this, we said, well, Dominic is helping and we only pay him $500 a week, which is not really true. We purchased him $1 million apartment and he's got top furnishings.
The $500 a week is basically spare spending money.
Yeah,
So imagine if you go to work, you've got your mortgage or your rent, you've got your food, your electricity, all your base expenses, and then you've got your leftover, your play money. Basically, that's what the $500 was.
I don't want to pay him $200,000 or $300,000 a year because he'd have to pay tax on it.
What about me? What about me? What about me? Oh, oh, oh. What about me? What about me? What about me?
Equivalent of $500 just play money at the end of each week, that would be the equivalent of a $200,000 to $300,000 income earning job per year, which you didn't want to do. You don't want to pay Dom that kind of cash.
And have to pay tax.
Yeah, exactly, and him have to pay tax.
Yeah, so he gets his holidays paid for.
He gets his food paid for, his electricity,
water, everything like that.
Rates,
insurance.
body corporate.
Yeah, he just lives rent free in this fairly luxurious loft-style, warehouse-style apartment.
He did.
And he also gets holidays. I paid for him to go to LA. He's got an extra card on my credit cards for any expenses he has. So even though we're saying that he gets paid $500, that's not true. But anyway, this woman very kindly said, well, do you have an ABM? Well, of course we have an ABM. We have a number of ABMs, I think, between us.
Not that we're going to use for this, though.
Well, anyway.
So another thing he's lied about.
Yeah.
No, Dominic used his own ABN. Now, it was Maison Blue. This is the first document I will show you to support our claims. Now, this is part of a larger document written by my brother-in-law for my father, giving a rundown of company financial position. Now, if you just look to the blue highlighted part, it states they will invoice this amount from Yolanda Sky. So, correction, it was Yolanda Sky, not Maison Burlesque ABN that was used.
Anyway, the woman said, okay, well, why don't you do that? You know, you're allowed to pay yourself and just claim that it's for care.
I've done a lot of research on the NDIS. Now, my understanding is that this is what I've been told by the NDIA. Now, for self-managed funds for regional customers, so obviously there's not as many carers available in the country. So regionally, what they recommend is that you use an ABN to then pay yourself as the service provider. I think why she's done this is because Pat's care is so complicated that you can't really hire somebody who can even feed him. So in this situation, you may as well be regional where there's no carers available. Patrick has to be cared for by family.
Yes.
She was actually doing the family a favour. She's not a bad guy.
No.
She actually was doing a favour and she wasn't even doing anything which is that illegal. It's a grey area of the law to my understanding.
Yes. Anyway, after she left, Dominic said, well, he would like to increase his income to $600 a week. And I said, well, okay. The next morning when I got up, I said, Dom, I'm really uncomfortable with this. I don't think we should do this. And Dominic said, well, we're going to. And I said, well, okay, but I want nothing to do with it. Don't talk to me about it.
Don't involve the trust.
Don't involve the trust. You know, if you get caught doing this, you're going to jail, not me.
This is not Mum's finest moment.
No.
Mum and I have very different views on this. Mum thinks that Patrick was entitled to the NDIS. My belief is that he was not.
Well, he was. He's
disabled. We were financially actually okay.
Yeah, but anybody can get it. So.
Yeah, but there's only, at this point in time with the NDIS, there was only a certain number of clients that could receive the NDIS. There was a maximum intake that they could take. Patrick happens to be somebody who's going to earn everybody a lot of money.
Yes.
So somebody got bumped. Somebody who actually needed this money got bumped for Patrick.
Yeah, this bothers Alice. It doesn't.
Bothers me extremely because I've seen
Patrick's always my primary focus.
I've seen what kind of environment that these people, a lot of the people with disability live in, Mum.
Oh, I know what they do.
What about the poor mum that had to take her son to the toilet and ended up on the ground and both of them bawling their eyes out while he shat on the floor?
Yeah, this is supposed to be someone that I'm training.
And
but she had a child exactly the same age as Patrick, and she knew just as much as I did about caring for them, and she gave me a lot of information that I didn't have because we're a bit out of the mainstream. And it was only through her that we found the school that Patrick went to.
Finances were really tight. There's a reason for why finances were tight.
I couldn't work out why I've got to why we haven't got
my siblings were spending an awful lot of cash. So things looked a lot tighter to Mum than they actually essentially, well, they were like that, but they didn't have to be like that if the expenditure was dropped down. So it's very important to note at this point in time that Mum wasn't actually aware that there was only a certain amount of NDIS clients that could be taken on board at that point in time. She wasn't aware that Patrick was actually bumping somebody else. She may have done it anyway, but she's a mother. What can you expect? Look, if I was Patrick's mother, I might look at things differently. In my harsh judgment of Mum and Dominic accepting the NDIS payment,
I actually wanted to use it because both my daughters used to come one night a week or whatever, but that,
to relieve her.
Yeah, to just keep an ear out for Patrick, and they can wake me up if there's a problem. But they weren't coming this year, so
I was unavailable.
This was putting an enormous strain on me. Really, the only sleep I got was about an hour in the middle of the day when Dominic took Pat to read stories. And
Dominic's a bit of a bully, so it was a fairly unpleasant environment for Mum. At the time, he was very short-tempered, very grumpy.
Planning to
ease him out.
Not cut him out or cut him off or anything like that, but I was going to ease out his work hours. I thought that if he came back and saw everything in place, that he'd be quite happy to have the people
more
there.
Time off.
Yeah, have more time off. Well, he's taking time off anyway, and I'm the person who's left holding the Patrick.
How I discovered all of this was my brother had left his email account signed in on my mother's tablet. And at this point, they had already stolen Patrick. They were not allowing Mum to see him, and Mum had been pretty much bullied out of Wood End. So I had no qualms in going through my brother's email. That's not something I enjoy doing, but I must say, I was actually happy when I discovered the fraud. Not as angelic as he's always made out to be.
We always hold Dominic, or did hold Dominic up as a pillar of virtue, didn't we?
I can't. No, she did. I didn't.
No.
Not from 15. So from 15, I knew what my brother was. Now those emails are extremely detailed. I'll put some of them up on the screen for you. It's actually quite ridiculous. There's an email that completely outlines where all the NDIS fraud has actually, all the money's gone. So this is the same handout that I showed you before. I just wanted to point out a few more things. So wages for siblings totaled $75,000 from the NDIS funds. Now fraudulent rent claimed for Dominic's property totaled $48,000. Now that was used to inflate income for a loan. Now, Yolanda Sky, my brother's girlfriend's company, pays out $79,400 in total of NDIS funds. Yolanda Sky has $42,600 remaining of stolen NDIS funds. Now, we are unsure how remaining funds were distributed to buy the bar. So $27,000 went to PTD nominees, which was Patrick's company.
Yeah, which they spent more than that, so we didn't actually gain anything.
I've never been able to lock down exactly how much my brother-in-law took because it's fed through multiple accounts. And I just haven't been able to find it. The only reason why I could actually lock down Dom's was that I got access to his bank statements as well. That's how I've managed to actually get solid proof. Now, what Dominic did was he got his ABN, he followed the NDIS lady's advice. So the money first got paid into one of his personal accounts, which was a Commonwealth Bank account. What he would then do is he would distribute those funds through PTD, through his other businesses like Maison Burlesque, Vamp Studio. He's got 7 businesses, umbrella companies. So Maison Burlesque is the umbrella. So here is Maison Burlesque's business details from ASIC. Now, as you can see, it says the holder's name is Yolanda Sky. Now, Yolanda Sky is owned by my brother's girlfriend. And then we've got all these little 6 sub-companies coming out underneath. Correction, Yolanda Sky seems to be the umbrella. Maison Burlesque is just one of the sub-companies coming out underneath. Now you can see from this listing that Yolanda Sky's business names are Maison Burlesque, Burlesque Showboat, The Vamp Studio, and Bark Pagelli. Now, most of these companies and additional companies, according to the PT Dominique's bank account statements, all rented Dominic's property at the same time. Now, this was in an attempt to siphon stolen NDIS funds through the PTD nominee's company in an attempt to inflate income to obtain a large loan. Now, all of those companies...
Sounds like a conglomerate for something that always needed to be topped up by me.
I don't know what conglomerate means. What does it mean?
What does it mean? It means a big group of companies.
Yes, yes, which need to be topped up by you, that is true. From the business companies, they then, my brother's girlfriend and other people I'm not actually going to mention at this stage, were all distributed money from his companies. Now, this is from the same document that I showed you before, so the financial summary prepared by my brother-in-law for my father. Now, I'll just read out the part in blue that confirms the stolen NDIS money was put through as fake rent into PTD. So it says the loss of the NDIS money has cost PTD $27,000 per year in rent. Now, this is another document, so it's an email from my brother-in-law to my brother. Now, it's just confirming the distribution of the stolen NDIS funds. Now, at the top in pink, it states $122,000 from NDIS was paid in entirety to Yolanda Sky. It states, of this money, Dominic will have their full wages paid to them. They will invoice this amount from Yolanda Sky. It continues on. Further to those payments, new rental agreements will be drawn up separately with Yolanda Sky and Poppy to pay rent at $48,000 per year. Yolanda Sky can pay up to 30% of the rent, so $33,600 will be paid by Poppy, and Yolanda Sky will pay PTD nominees $14,400. This total payments made out of Yolanda Sky to this point are $79,400, leaving Yolanda Sky with NDIS monies remaining at $42,600. From there, we can go 2 ways with the remaining $42,600. Now, just to clarify, my brother still maintains there was no NDIS fraud. So the invoices will say things like lighting for boat show or something like that. These are all fake invoices, and it's all trailed by emails stating NDIS funds have hit the account, Daffy Duck rolling around in money. What happened with this money then? Because Mum had said no to the bar, Dominic purchased a bar, which was Bar Pagelli, which I've told you about.
Time to say goodbye.
What then occurred was when they found out 2 years after receiving the NDIS money that I had put in a complaint from your request, Mum actually requested that I dob in Dominic. I wasn't a huge fan of it at the start, was I?
No, but I was, because
I'm a huge fan of it now. I wasn't then.
I wanted my baby back.
Yeah, exactly.
He's holding my child to ransom and I want him back, and I want him back now.
Mum's request, I rang the NDIA, I gave them all the evidence. Now, this is 3 times that I had to put in this report. All the NDIA did was remove the self-managed fund. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
There's no consequences, there's no further investigation, nothing. So then,
And of course it's just as big a fraud now, because claiming all this care and whatnot, but it's not happening.
oh no, it's fraud on an astronomical level. But this is even now, but this is just outright theft.
Yeah, and we can prove this one. The other ones, we don't have the paperwork.
We don't have the paperwork yet, no. So, as it stands now, the self-managed fund has been removed and it's managed by an independent party, okay? We also went to the Federal Police. We also went to Timble.
Who's our local MP?
Yeah. Everybody seemed very interested at the start, and then...
Tom Ball did help.
Tim,
oh, okay. No interest in politics. He forwarded on to the appropriate...
He did. Tim Ball did help. Then the member...
Biggies.
Didn't. They wanted all the evidence and everything like that, but they just don't follow through with it. What then happened is I went to McAllister's office, sent her all the evidence, let her know that they were trying to get this prosecuted. She was fantastic, and she is the only person that has actually then handed it on to the NDIA and started another investigation. How that investigation is going at this point in time, I don't actually know.
The thing is that BCAT knows all this, but they've still
left him in the care of somebody who obviously has interest in looking after him for financial gain.
And isn't really looking after him now. He's living with my daughter, who somehow has managed to get another baby.
I think it's fairly well known, pretty much around the world, maybe not Canada, because they're lusting after the NDIS, aren't they? Yeah. But I think it's pretty well known that the NDIS is riddled with fraud. This video is really, really to highlight the fact that self-managed funds are just riddled. I'd be surprised if any self-managed funds are actually managed. Honestly.
Remember when you asked them why they're taking so long, and they said that
they've got too many.
They've got too many. Millions of people have stolen.
Yeah, so what I've heard is that there is actually such a high level of fraud within the NDIS that if they were to prosecute, it would crash the legal system. That's actually what I've heard. Yeah. That is no reason to just not prosecute and pretend this never happened and just attempt to, just take self-managed funds away. Self-managed funds is not the only place where fraud has happened.
Oh, that's the least of it. It's the providers.
But welcome to the disability system.
In Australia.
Let's just put it under the rug and let it continue on. And let's exploit these poor individuals that are most vulnerable members of our society. If a disabled person's siblings are willing to do this, just imagine what all the service providers and
we know what the service providers
people who aren't related are doing. Now the whole system just needs to be looked at. We actually need to rip the cover off this and stop wasting taxpayers' money for absolutely no benefit to the client. It is absolutely ridiculous.
It would be different if the people with a disability were benefiting from it, but they're not.
Maybe there are some out there that are, maybe, but looking at the condition of the equipment that is supplied, the appropriateness of the equipment, the whole thing is just set up to be defrauded, isn't it?
Yes.
The whole system. if you do see this video, we are trying to save my brother's life. We are out of ideas. Please like, subscribe, share this story.
This is just one story. There
must be heaps of you out there that have experienced the same thing.
Or worse, you haven't got any assistance at all.
At all. Because you're one of the people that didn't make the cut, for example. It really is quite disgusting. And then to leave.
I so wish I'd paid for that rotten bar when he first mentioned it. Then it would have been all over. Failure in a year. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And he wouldn't
Do you know
have had
how
that.
much a bar costs to set up?
Yeah, and
It costs a fortune.
I know it does, and I know that.
And I would have been pretty unhappy about that, being that I'm the person with 22 years of hospitality experience.
Yeah.
So,
It caused a lot of hostility with Dominic because his cousin has a restaurant, and her father, my brother-in-law, invested apparently 50,000 in it, which he can well afford to do and to lose. But
why not?
But these are people who have got degrees in hospitality, have worked in hospitality all their life.
My cousin she was a manager in Chapel Street for years and years and years. Heaps of experience. They're about as experienced as me, if not more so. 50,000 is not what Dom took. Dom took 425.
But there were 8 investors too. Other people thought this was a good deal as well. It wasn't just brother-in-law who funded the whole event.
And that was it though. That's all the money that they're going to get for that. They're not going to get bailed out by their family or anything like that, whereas Dom would have been. Because Mum actually kept Dominic's companies all afloat. She wasn't aware of this at the time.
No, I wouldn't have done that if I had a choice.
She thought she had this massively successful son who was hugely talented at photography and filmmaking. Then we discovered that none of them made any money. None of them. And they all got topped up. So from the PTD nominees counts.
And why didn't I know about that? Because my credit card statements and my bank statements were cut off when I asked my son-in-law why I had no bank statements anymore. He told me that he needed to go online because of our B&B business and that he couldn't go online if I was getting paper statements. So we went to the bank, didn't we?
Yes.
And they said, that's rubbish. And printed me off a statement in which I found 20,000 fraud that month, but apparently Alice tells me it's 25, and that's not counting what they spend on the credit card.
It's 25 one month and 20 another.
Yeah, so it's,
And then you've got the 10 for loan for car.
Yeah, at least double that. So by the time we got home, because we had them reinstated, the statements, they were cut off again.
They were already cut off.
We were 2 minutes from the...
No, we would have been, in all honesty, probably would have been about a 15-minute walk.
Do you think?
Yeah,
the way I walked, probably.
Probably about 15 minutes, but yes, by the time we got home, paper statements were already cancelled, so... If nothing comes of this for my brother, if there's no consequences for Dominic, I at least want to try and make sure that other people stop getting away with this. We've said this a few times. No one is liking, no one is subscribing. Thanks, guys. But please, if you are an NDIS victim or you know of any NDIS fraud, can you please write in the comments just to let us know?
We do have, how many thousands?
We've got a lot of views.
Yeah, we get views, but
we need you to subscribe.
Yeah.
Please. This is an ongoing thing, so I am still in contact with the NDIA. So when
the investigation is still continuing.
As far as I know at this stage, I haven't checked on it.
But VCAT is aware of this. This is what I keep saying. They know exactly why my children have Patrick. It's for financial reasons.
So this is just a copy of emails between my brother-in-law and my brother. Now, this is from my brother to my brother-in-law. I'm actually far more concerned about Alice. Mum won't do anything as long as I'm her slave from now. Alice will dob us in just for a laugh. From my brother-in-law to my brother. Okay, thanks. That doesn't show that she knew what the setup was, though. I'd be surprised if there is such an email. It would have to be something she wrote to you, as no one else knew, but I doubt there will be anything along those lines. This is after they'd stolen Patrick and when they knew that we had reported the NDIS fraud. Now, they were attempting to set up my mother to take the fall for the NDIS fraud.
And Patrick is literally dying. Why do we have this culture of death in Australia? I remember in the late 80s, Right to Life decided to go to court to try to save the life of a child with spina bifida. Apparently the parents didn't want the child, although there's probably thousands of people who would have adopted this child, and they lost. You know, how?
How?
They even brought over a doctor with spina bifida from the UK as a witness to say, you know, you can lead a very productive, happy life with spina bifida.
I used to believe that the world wasn't as evil as it is, but now I actually agree with Mum.
I'm shocked. I've been living in a
Bubble.
In a bubble.
I think VCAT is actually waiting for Patrick to die.
Yes.
I do actually agree. I think the senior member that we got so excited about, I do agree with Mum now. I believe she was put in place just to stall the whole thing.
Yeah. And it's not just that he has to die.
He has
Why
to die
does
alone.
He have to die alone and frightened. He's literally drowning. If you
literally drowning, as in his lungs are filling with fluid.
If you don't clear his lungs for him every day, it's like if you've got cystic
fibrosis
or something. When we're there, because we haven't seen him for so long, we clear his lungs.
We clear his lungs.
We will get half a teacup of elastic white goo that we just pull out like this. And yet my daughter has the cheek to say
to complain
to VCAT that when we're here, he coughs at night. Of course he coughs. We're trying to, he's trying to get this stuff has been loosened up and it's coming up.
By the time we leave, his oxygen's always at 98 without oxygen assistance.
Yeah, we managed to get him back, but how long will we be able to do that?
So what will happen, and I know Mum knows this as well, I looked it up, I wish she hadn't asked me to, the lungs go solid.
Yeah.
And he will drown, which is supposed to be one of the most horrific ways of
But not drowning like you would drown if you were in the
an
ocean
pool
or something.
That
probably takes a few minutes.
No.
This is taking years.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. And how any government can say that this is good and conspire with the courts to say this is okay is absolutely sickening.
How can any entity that is claiming to be there for the protection...
You see these people, they look normal. It reminds me of the sort of Nuremberg trials, the banality of evil. These look like normal people, but they have condemned this person who wants to live desperately, who enjoys his life, to just be murdered.
What entity is in charge of looking after the most vulnerable members of our society decide to leave that vulnerable person in the care of all the people that stole all his NDIS money and proceeded to buy a bar?
And also
does that sound like a responsible thing to do?
And also stole funds from,
we won't go into the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yes, there's theft absolutely everywhere. Which
it's
we won't go into.
Thousands, it could even.
No, it's over 1 million. I've already, well over 1 million.
Yeah.
I've already calculated it. Yet again, please hit that subscribe button. Please share your stories of NDIS failings where we've got no hope bar this channel.
Yeah. We've tried absolutely everything. I'm short of going with a gun and demanding to hand him over, which, or Patrick's cunning plan that we just carry him out and put him in the car and drive off.
Yes, his cunning plan.
Yeah.
He was very excited about this cunning plan.
I don't know how long it took him to figure it out.
But we went one visit, we come back.
Because he just realised that Alice has got a driving licence in the car.
Like, I got the idea, guys, I'm going to sort it, just chuck me in the car and drive me.
Yeah.
Poor little bugger.
Yeah. When you have to explain to him that, I'm sorry, we can't do that,
I'm responsible for trying to fix it. I'm the only person who can email, I'm the only person who can write reports, the whole thing is on me.
Yeah, I actually did email for a little while. Dominic taught me how to do it.
Then I stuffed up her computer with a free antivirus program.
But no, what happened was I had very upset that my daughter had moved in with a Japanese guy that she'd just met. She had provided her with accommodation.
Seaweed Bottomstone was his surname.
Yeah. Okay, but that's not his name in Japanese.
No.
So I sent her a rather unpleasant email telling her to go home now. Not
in those words, though.
No.
A little bit more creative than that.
A little bit more creative than that. And then I got a phone call first thing the next day from one of my agents, and she says, I've just got an email for you. I don't think it's meant for me. And oh my God. I said, oh look, I'm so sorry, all that sort of stuff. But when I finished on the phone with her, I thought, how many everybody on our list would have got that email. This is awful. So I never touched the thing after that.
She's got low vision now too, so there's absolutely no way. Okay, I think that was a pretty unpleasant end to this video. I've teared up. I don't tear up.
We'll try to be funnier next time.
Oh, we will?
We'll tell you the story of how Alice got bitten by a snake. A red-bellied black snake. Big.
Sure.
Yeah. Our adventures with the wildlife.
Yeah, it's our neighbour.
He actually got bitten by something, not a snake, some sort of creepy crawly. And he died.
And he died.
So, but, you know.
Welcome to Australia. Yeah. Take your life in your hands the moment you step out your door or go to the loo.
We haven't seen any dog bears lately, though, have we?
Not yet.
No.
Sure, they'll come. Okay, well, thank you for your time, as always. Please do reach out again in the comments. And goodbye from everyone. Fezzik, Pickles, Rupert. Bertie's sick, he's got a tummy ache. I just caught his vomit in my hand before. It was quite impressive.
That's disgusting.
You didn't appreciate the fact that I actually caught it all?
No, I would have rather it hit the rug.
Oh, would you? Yeah. Oh, okay. I was trying to save the rug.
No, it was so disgusting. I was sort of trying to keep down my own vomit.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye. So, we have some sad news.
Happy news.
Sean left us last night. So he was slowing down and he landed on me. He managed to find himself a wife, which I was pretty upset about. And yeah, he died on my arm. So, in loving memory of Sean,
yes,
I'm just going to put...
He's gone to that big dung heap in the sky.
I'm just going to put a quick slideshow on in memory of him.
Shared our highs and stood through lows, built a bond that only true work shows. You were more than just a name, part of the team, a steady flame. Now you're chasing something new, but it's hard to say goodbye to you.